Chapter 171, The Backer. What now? Fu Xing didn't understand and spoke impatiently. A reporter has been streaming the press conference just now. It's all over the internet and on Weibo. Li Hong said, horrified. Damn it, it seems that silencing them is useless. I'll go find the big boss and you can help me write an apology post on Weibo. You can also write a post and use some marketing accounts to create hype and drag Lan Yanren into this. Find anti-fans to attack him. I don't care what method you use. Lan Yanren can't stay in the entertainment circle. Reporters surrounded the entrance of the hotel. Fu Guoxing got into the car and left under the protection of Li Hong and the security officers. Damn it! Fu Guoxing cursed again. He looked at the comments online and was furious. In a blink of an eye, the car arrived at Mo Changwen's house. When Xu Pei saw that it was Fu Guoxing, she didn't want to answer the door. Madam Xu, you have to save me, Fu Guoxing begged. Xu Pei let reluctantly Fu Guoxing in. No, I won't save you. How many times have I cleaned up after you over the years? She sounded as though she was complaining. I was scammed by a rascal. Madam Xu, I will definitely repay you if you help me, Fu Guoxing promised. Are you referring to Lan Yanren? Xu Pei asked curiously. She had seen the video too. Lan Yanren looked a little like Lan Yanren. Yes, I will definitely never forgive him. Fu Guoxing hated Lan Yanren to the core. Just then, Mo Changwen came downstairs and spoke angrily when he saw Fu Guoxing. What are you doing here? He had always suspected that Fu Guoxing had improper thoughts about Xu Pei, so his impression of Fu Guoxing wasn't good. He's here about the online incident. The person who harmed him was Lan Yanren's brother, Lan Yanren, Xu Pei explained. Lan Yanren? Mo Changwen muttered. After Mo Zhenrong warned him the last time, he hadn't attacked again, so he could start with her brother. Mr. Mo, Madam Xu, please save me, Fu Guoxing begged. I know, Mr. Fu. You saved my life a few years ago. This is what we should do. Mo Changwen smiled and said. Xu Pei looked at Mo Changwen and turned to look at Fu Guoxing. Teacher Fu, don't worry. I will think of a way. Lan Yanren is a newbie. He should be easier to deal with. Don't worry, I will help you. Thank you. Thank you. Fu Guoxing hurriedly thanked her. He was glad that he had seen Xu Pei drowning a few years ago when he was sailing and had saved her. After Fu Guoxing left, Xu Pei spoke up. I don't want to help that old pervert anymore. I have helped him enough over the years, but he still hasn't changed. How many people have I silenced for him over the years? Xu Pei was dissatisfied. Honey, keep an open mind. Didn't we end up in the hands of that brat last time? Let's start with her brother this time. She probably won't leave her brother alone, right? Mo Changwen had a plan. All right, take it as a repayment for saving me from Fu Guoxing. I'll help him again. Xu Pei was helpless. Yanren was relieved to see everything online, so she called Kwang Mu. Major Kwang, it's me, Lan Yanren. Her voice was sweet and gentle. Miss Lan, I'm really sorry about what happened. This time, Yanren may have ruthlessly defeated Fu Guoxing, but he has been in the entertainment circle for decades and has connections and resources. Besides, such things are common in the entertainment circle. Yanren is in danger, I'm afraid. Kwang Mu was a little scared. Lan Yanren was a good seedling. He couldn't let it be ruined like this. You don't have to be afraid. I'll take care of everything. After this matter is resolved, there will definitely be a lot of people coming to attack Yanren. You just have to help with the rest. Lan Yanren smiled and said, All right, Miss Lan has said so. I'm not afraid of anything. Kwang Mu hung up the phone and called Wang King in. Wang King, you should have discussed the matter of Lan Yanren testifying with me. Kwang Lu reproached her. It's alright, manager. I've dealt with such matters too many times. Yan Ran is a newbie, and I was thinking about how to create a personal image for him. The idea was his idea, and I think it's feasible. The entertainment people lack people who dare to speak out or speak the truth. This can bring a large number of fans with the incident. Lan Yanran is famous, Wang King said calmly. Do you know what kind of person Fu Guoxing is? He takes revenge for the smallest grievance and is kind on the surface. He is a smiling tiger. Lan Yanran stepped on him and he won't let him off. Kwang Mu was worried. It's alright, we'll deal with whatever comes our way. Lan Yanran is a newbie. He just came out of university and hasn't graduated. There isn't much dirt to dig up. Besides, his family owns a hospital, and it's a serious business. It's not a big deal. Wang King had dealt with such matters in the past as well. Lan Yanran was the only one who saved her the most trouble. He was as clean as a blank piece of paper, which made it easier for her to handle public relations. Forget it. If anything happens, his sister will take responsibility and I won't have to worry. Kwang Mu relaxed. Manager, we'll be facing anti-fans soon. I think Fu Guoxing will retaliate, Wang King said. Yeah, go and give Lan Yanran psychological prevention. He is still young and has just debuted. I'm afraid he can't take it, Kwang Mu reminded her. Wang King nodded and left. Chapter 172. Is it all true? The internet was divided into two groups. The first was the ones who became fans of Lan Yanran, blaming Fu Guoxing for being sanctimonious, and the second was those who attacked Lan Yanran, saying that he was wicked and liked to accuse people. Kwang Mu watched with a headache and decided to stop watching. Lan Yanran was very calm. She didn't expect Lan Yanran to grow this time. It seemed that she was really a stumbling block for her brother in the past life. She was smiling when Fatty sent her a message. Boss, the results of the drug analysis are out. The medicine used to treat cancer is real, and the medicine inside is all valuable and rare Chinese medicine. The Chinese medicine content is 80% similar to the medicine from country Y, or even better, Fatty said in surprise. It's not fake? Have you researched thoroughly? Anran was a little surprised. You still don't believe in Sis Hong's ability? After the villa was changed, she was so energetic. She checked it several times and it's true. Fatty sent the message sincerely. If it is real, why didn't Shang Taiyan sell it on market, but instead sold it at a low price in the black market? This doesn't make any sense. Anran was confused. What was Shang Taiyan doing? Boss, I'm puzzled too. The cost of these herbs alone is not small, and they're sold for dozens of yuan. What is Shang Taiyan's purpose? Fatty was puzzled. When is Shang Taiyan's medicine going to be sold? Anran asked. I don't know. Last time, after Boss was discovered, Shang Taiyan and that batch of medicine didn't appear again. Continue to keep an eye on him. I'm going to Lingxi County tomorrow. Let me know if you hear anything from Shang Taiyan. Anran kept texting. Li Yuro gently opened the door while Anran hurriedly put her phone away. Mom, what's wrong? Anran, what happened to your brother on the internet? He just left for a few days and this happened? What are we going to do next? Anran held Li Yuro's hand and smiled. Mom, it's alright. Every celebrity has to have some scandals. The company is heating it up for Yanran. Isn't he filming? He wants to attract fans and create hype. It's nothing, don't worry. Hearing Anran's words of comfort, Li Yuro felt relieved. That's right. Your dad and I were worried. If we really encounter a pervert who hurts Yanran, I will not be able to live on. Li Yuro said upset. Don't worry, Yanran can protect himself. If not, have you forgotten who your son-in-law is? Anran smiled and said. Why do I feel like Jinrong hasn't visited in a long time? You've not seen him for a long time either, right? Leora was overjoyed at the mention of Mojang. Actually, we were eating together the day before yesterday. We just didn't tell you, Anran smiled. That's good. You have an exam tomorrow. Have you packed your things? Leora asked with concern. Yes, Mom. You have to take care of yourselves when I'm not home, especially Grandma. You have to be careful, Anran reminded her. Got it, I will. Leora smiled. Downstairs, Zhao Shumi arrived with Lan Tingyi's family. Zhao Shumi slammed the door as though she was here to collect her debts. When Lan Tingyang heard the knocking, he hurried over to open the door. Mom, why are you here? He asked in confusion. Was she here to ask for money again? You ingrate, I'm here to see my granddaughter. I heard that Anran was beaten up as well. Although our relationship isn't good, I'm still her grandma. I was just so angry that I made such irresponsible remarks. How is Anran? Zhao Shumi pretended to care, but she was actually here to make a fool of Lan Anran. Anran is fine. She's doing very well. Lan Tingyang was confused, not knowing where she heard the news from. Don't lie, Tingyang. We're just concerned about Anran. Look, Yaxin just got discharged from the hospital, and she's already rushing over to see her sister. You don't have to hide anymore, Lan Tingyi couldn't wait and said. Lan Tingyang looked at Yaxin. Her arm was wrapped in gauze. The palm marks on her face were almost gone, and the plaster on her feet was very thick. Shu Yanshan was pushing her in a wheelchair towards them. Is that Yaxin? This person is too ruthless. Have you caught the person? Lan Tingyang asked with concern. No, there's still no news from the police. Our Yaxin suffered silently this time. Shu Yanshan was furious. How pitiful. Anran's voice came from behind, her voice full of mocking. What happened? Mom, why is she... Lan Tingyi looked at Anran in disbelief. Zhao Shumi was shocked too. In the photos, she was clearly injured and bleeding everywhere. What happened? Upstairs, Anran had long heard Zhao Shumi's sharp voice, so she deliberately wore a red dress and had light makeup on, looking extremely beautiful. Grandma, Uncle, Aunt, all of you are so surprised. Am I too pretty today? Anran smiled and said. Yaxin clenched her fist. She was already disabled, but this murderer could still look beautiful. It wasn't fair. Chapter 173. Here to see a joke. Is this Yaxin? I heard that you were beaten up not too long ago, and I haven't had the time to see you. I didn't expect you to come over today. Your injuries are pitiful and your face is swollen. Anran spoke with pity. Go away. Stop pretending to be a good person. Shu Yanshan was extremely dissatisfied. What happened in those photos? Aunt, how could you say that? How am I pretending to be a good person? Is there something going on today? Anran smiled and asked. Mom, you said Anran was beaten. What happened? She is clearly fine and wasn't beaten. Who is spreading this rumor? Lan Tingyi asked. So Grandma heard that I was beaten and came to see me to make a fool of myself? Anran asked. Are we such people? Zhao Shumi avoided eye contact. Sis, we're just being kind. I was already injured. We can't afford to have any more problems. We just wanted to see if you were all right. Yaxin wore a neck brace and had difficulty speaking. She was here to see Anran make a fool of herself, but didn't expect herself to become a joke. I can't hear you very well. I'm alright, sis. You should come out after your injuries recover. It's not very good to catch a cold or infections. Anran sneered. Yaxin bit her lip with all her might, hatred filling in her heart. Sis, I heard that Yanran went out to be a big star, and there are already rumors about him today. The internet is in an uproar. Yaxin spoke deliberately. What? That rascal became a celebrity? Let me see. Zhao Shumi didn't use the internet, so she didn't know what happened today. Mom, this is about the children. Yanran is using this to hype up his popularity, Liu hurriedly explained. Zhao Shumi hurriedly took out her glasses and wore them. Yaxin deliberately showed Zhao Shumi a post on the marketing account, which infuriated her. Bastard! Shameless! That uninfiled thing doesn't deserve to be a doctor. And now news of such an embarrassing incident spreads. How am I going to face others? Mom, this is all fake. Don't believe it, Lan Tingyun explained. You know about this too? This is outrageous. It's all because you spoiled him. Zhao Shumi trembled with anger as she read the title on her phone. The new star, Lan Yanran, is having a secret meeting with an old actor, Fu Goxing. The affair between the two is disgusting. The post on the marketing account had been forwarded more than 10,000 times and was spreading like wildfire online. Mom, I know about this. Yanran isn't suitable to be a doctor, and he always comes last in exams. Isn't that embarrassing too? Why don't you let him try? What if he succeeds? You don't know the entertainment circle. Such things are common and are fake. You watch Yanran grow up. He won't do such things. Lan Tingyun comforted her. I don't care. I don't understand the entertainment circle, but such an embarrassing thing can't happen in the Lan family. Tell that rascal to hurry back and be a doctor. Don't embarrass me outside, otherwise the Lan family won't have a grandson like him. I can't afford to be embarrassed. Zhao Shumi scolded furiously. Mom, we have to respect the child's opinion on this matter. We can't. The moment Li Yu finished speaking, she received a slap. What can't I? I'm the one in charge of this family. You spoil all your children. Your daughter is a jinx, and your son isn't doing well either. What a sin. Zhao Shumi stomped her feet angrily, wishing she could rip the woman in front of her apart. You dare to hit my mom? Anran's face was dark and solemn. She looked at Zhao Shumi with a terrifying gaze. Li Yu knew that Anran was going to flare up, so she hurriedly stepped forward to stop her. She couldn't touch Zhao Shumi again. Mom is alright. It doesn't hurt. Anran, don't be angry. Li Yu hugged Anran and glared at Zhao Shumi as though she could eat someone. You, what are you trying to do? Zhao Shumi was frightened by the look as well, thinking about the past few times that she was beaten and feeling a lingering fear. Mom, let's go. We can talk about this later. Shu Yanshan pulled Yaxin away in fear and spoke in a soft voice. Let's go. Lan Tingyi ran the fastest. You wait. Zhao Shumi couldn't take it lying down and spoke harshly. Anran, don't be angry. Mom is alright. Li Yu was also frightened by Anran. She didn't expect her obedient daughter to have such a horrifying side. Mom, I'm alright. I was just scaring them. I'll apply some ointment for you. Anran suppressed her anger and returned to reveal a big smile. Alright, apply the ointment. Lan Tingyun hurriedly closed the door and helped Anran into the house. Anran, don't be angry with your grandma. I've gotten used to her behavior over the years. Don't take it to heart. Will you grow persuaded? I'm alright, Mom. I don't care, as long as you're both well. Anran applied the ointment to Li Yu gently. Anran, is your brother alright? Lan Tingyun asked again. It's alright. Others are just looking to defame him. Don't you understand Yanran? He is always so straightforward, so don't worry. Yanran smiled and said. Chapter 174. Extorted. That's good. I don't think your grandma will agree to Yanran's matter easily. It's better to let this go as soon as possible. Lan Tingyun's expression was grim. Don't worry, Mom and Dad. It will be fine. Anran comforted him. On the surface, she seemed to be fine, but the seeds of revenge were ignited in her heart. If she didn't want this old thing to disturb them, she would have to think of a way to deal with them. After leaving the Lan family's house, Zhao Shumi felt a lingering fear. This jinx was simply out to kill. Damn it! What the hell is going on? Didn't that old woman beat Anran up? Why is she still alive and well? Did we give 10,000 yuan just for nothing? Shu Yanshan said furiously. I don't know. I'll call and ask. Lan Tingyi took out his phone and called old Fifth Wang. Hey, what happened, Brother Wang? Why isn't that brat hurt at all? Didn't you beat her up badly? She can't have recovered so quickly, right? Are you suspecting me? Believe it or not, I've done what you asked of me. Now give me my money. Old Wang refused to admit it. He had spent the last 10,000 yuan and didn't have a single cent to his hand. Brother Wang, didn't I give you 10,000 yuan? You can't do this, right? Lan Tingyi smiled awkwardly. That 10,000 is spent. Give me some more. Old Fifth Wang spoke righteously. Lan Tingyi was furious. Brother Wang, you probably don't understand, but the 10,000 had been paid in one go. There isn't any installments. It's done, he explained patiently. I know, but I don't have any money now. You have to give it to me, or else I'll go to the police station and sue you for kidnapping. At most, we'll just perish together. Old Wang's blatant threat was hard for Lan Tingyi to accept. Brother Wang, that wasn't what you said back then. How could you change your mind? Were you joking with me? Lan Anran is completely fine, and yet you're asking me for money? I even suspect that you lied to me with her. Lan Tingyi forced a smile. You're not giving it to me? Sure, let's go to jail. Old Wang spoke firmly. He wasn't afraid of going to jail anyway. At worst, they would just perish together. Wait, I'll give it to you. Lan Tingyi gritted his teeth. He hung up, looking furious. Bastard, how dare he deceive us? What happened? Tingyi? Zhao Shimi frowned and asked. We were tricked. That bastard lied to us with Lan Anran, and he is here to blackmail me. Lan Tingyi was very angry. Hurry, hurry, hurry! Call the police! Zhao Shimi was anxious. She didn't expect Lan Anran to be so good at seducing people, to be able to subdue a gambler. No, Mom. Lan Anran didn't call the police because she wants Old Fifth Wang to blackmail us. She knows that Tingyi will go to jail if we call the police now. Kidnapping is a serious crime, and Tingyi will be gone for at least 10 years. Didn't you say that this greedy vampire was reliable? How did it end up like this? Shu Yanshan said in dissatisfaction. Damn it, how did it become like this? Lan Tingyi transferred 5,000 yuan to Old Fifth Wang as he spoke. Tingyi, if this continues, won't we be supporting Old Wang? Zhao Shumi's heart ached at the thought of spending the money in vain. Mom, I really can't go to jail again. I was already in jail for a few years. It really isn't a place for humans, Lan Tingyi begged. Tell me, how did you end up like this? Zhao Shumi was exasperated. Mom, what should we do next? Shu Yanshan said anxiously. What should we do? What else can we do? Go home. Zhao Shumi didn't have a plan and could only go home to make other plans. At the Mo family, Mo Jinrong wanted to visit old Mrs. Mo before leaving. Rascal, you still know how to come back? I thought you were dead. Old Mrs. Mo expressed her dissatisfaction. Grandma, I'm here, aren't I? Mo Jinrong sat down with a smile. He hadn't seen her in a long time. Huh. You forgot about me, your grandma. Your job is much more important than me. Old Mrs. Mo was furious. I'm going on a business trip tomorrow, so I came to see you before I left. I know Uncle talked bad about me again, so I didn't dare to come. Mo Jinrong seemed a little cheeky. It had been a long time since old Mrs. Mo saw Mo Jinrong like this, and she was overjoyed. Rascal, I heard that you fired Shu Pei's relative and called a shareholders meeting to fire many people. Old Mrs. Mo was very concerned about the company, and even if she didn't say anything, Shu Pei had been here several times. Grandma, you should know about my actions. I have a purpose. Did Aunt tell you why I did this? Mo Jinrong's voice was cold. Why? Old Mrs. Mo knew that her grandson had his reasons for doing things. It's for Lan Anran's sake. Shu Changhe publicly flirted with her at the company entrance. Uncle hasn't been behaving well recently. Shouldn't I teach him a lesson? Mo Jinrong asked. What? That bastard. There's such a thing? Shu Pei never said anything like that. Is Anran alright? Old Mrs. Mo asked with concern. Chapter 175. Someone helped oversee. She's fine. She hasn't visited in a few days because she was busy with her exams. She'll be back when she's done. Mo Jinrong comforted her. Good, good. I haven't seen her in a long time. Shu Pei only knows how to protect her loved ones. How dare she come to me and say bad things about you and Anran? She deserves a beating. Old Mrs. Mo was very angry. I was too lenient with Uncle. These days, he hasn't been behaving well, so I held a shareholders' meeting to warn him. As expected, Uncle has become more well-behaved. Mo Jinrong spoke respectfully. This Chang Wen is always dissatisfied. Don't worry, Jinrong. I won't let him ruin your relationship with Ayn Rand. I'll keep an eye on him these days, and won't let him cause any more trouble. Also, Xu Pei, I'm going to scold that woman. She doesn't know life from death. Old Mrs. Mo was furious and wanted to find Xu Pei and Mo Chang Wen to settle the score. This was Mo Jinrong's purpose in coming. Grandma was their nemesis. Although they had resentment in their heart, they could only hide it. Grandma, I'll stay here today. When I'm not that busy, I'll definitely bring Ayn Rand to see you. Mo Jinrong was extremely well behaved, and old Mrs. Mo was overjoyed. Good. Accompany me to the opera. Mo Jinrong helped old Mrs. Mo to the opera house. The next day, Ayn Rand packed up her luggage and left for Langchi County. As it was quite far, she took the train over, and the Lan family left after sending her off to the station. Sun Hai got into the car and fell asleep not long after. Ayn Rand looked at the endless stream of news about Lan Yanran on the computer, and she got Fatty to make a marketing account to refute the rumors about Yanran. The response was quite good, and many people started to support Yanran. Just then, an unfamiliar message came through her phone. Lan Yanran, I want to talk to you about your brother, Lan Yanran. Are you interested? Ayn Rand looked at the information in her hand, the words carrying a hint of a threat, and she replied calmly, I don't care who you are, you'd better not touch him or I won't forgive you. Ayn Rand was the first to threaten. Of course, if you can fulfill my conditions, I will naturally let him go. What do you want? Ayn Rand asked. Leave Mo Jinrong and I promise you that your brother will be all right. Otherwise, you have seen the news these past few days. The public's opinion is very strong and he won't behave. Your brother's reputation in the entertainment industry will be ruined and he'll even lose his life. Mo Chang Wen was on the other side of the phone. It wasn't convenient for him to show his face again, because Mo Jinrong might threaten him again if he found out. Ayn Rand thought for a moment and smiled. Of course, we can cooperate. Mo Chang Wen is a little surprised. He wasn't sure if Lan Anwen was telling the truth. You'll give up on Mo Jinrong to cooperate with me? He was puzzled. Of course, you know my relationship with Mo Jinrong. Actually, our goals are the same. We're not enemies, but friends. Ayn Rand's words were full of sincerity. Even so, Mo Chang Wen remained vigilant. How do you want to cooperate? Mo Chang Wen asked. Uncle, isn't it Mo Jinrong's Mo Family Corporation that you want? I can help you achieve this goal. You know I'm Mo Chang Wen? Mo Chang Wen was a little surprised that Ayn Rand could guess his identity. Ayn Rand had already guessed Mo Chang Wen's identity. Only Mo Chang Wen wanted Mo Jinrong to die, so that he could smoothly take over Mo Jinrong's company. That's not important, Uncle. As long as you help me, I'll help you as well. Is Mo Jinrong doing research on medicine for heart disease? The most important thing for Ayn Rand was to find Mo Jinrong's secret. In her past life, she didn't understand him at all. This time, she couldn't understand him at all either. I don't know, but if you want to help me, you should at least show some sincerity and divorce Mo Jinrong immediately. After the divorce, we can be friends. What do you want? As long as you can defeat Mo Jinrong, I will help you. Mo Chang Wen didn't trust Ayn Rand. After all, he had experienced her cunningness. All right, I agree. Ayn Rand replied without hesitation. Mo Jinrong, who was seated in the back row, drank his tea quietly and followed Lan Ayn Rand all the way to Langchi County. Suddenly, he was so surprised by a text on his phone that he almost spat the water out his mouth. Let's get a divorce. Mo Chang Wen looked at the news in surprise, certain that he wasn't mistaken. What exactly is Lan Ayn Rand doing? Give me a reason. Mo Jinrong swallowed the water in his mouth silently and replied in shock. Ayn Rand sent another message. It's a fake divorce. Don't mind it. When I get back, I need you to put a show for me. It's to help me and also to help yourself. Mo Jinwoo was completely dumbfounded, not knowing what Ayn Rand was doing. He didn't reply, not knowing why he was unwilling, even if it was a fake divorce. The train headed south and arrived in Langshi County an hour later. At the exit, someone raised a large sign and wrote, "Wrong City Medical Research Institute Exams Gathering." There were many people gathered under the sign. To put it bluntly, this test was to recruit civil servants early so that they could directly enter the research institute after graduation. There were quite a lot of people. Sun Hai looked around. There was a high chance that they were the top 50 of the previous competition. "Are you Lan Ayn Rand and Sun Hai?" The man carrying the flag walked over and asked. His gaze was fixated on Ayn Rand. He had never seen such a beautiful woman and couldn't take his eyes off of her. Chapter 176. Envy is the devil. Yes, Sun Hai nodded. "Look at how ignorant she is," a girl said, unconvinced. Ayn Rand ignored her and walked to the back of the group. The man shouted after he came back to his senses. "Everyone is here. Let's go to the hotel to rest." A group of people left with the man. Mo Jinwoo followed behind intentionally or otherwise. After they arrived at the hotel, everyone was arranged separately. Ayn Rand and Sun Hai were separated. Sun Hai was next door, and Ayn Rand was assigned to an unfamiliar room with 4 other girls. Ayn Rand didn't like to talk in an unfamiliar environment. The 3 of them had disdainful expressions, thinking that Ayn Rand was deliberately pretending to be aloof. They weren't happy and didn't talk to her. There was only one girl sitting on the bed quietly reading a book. She had 2 ponytails and looked extremely well behaved. When it was time to eat, the 3 of them had left. Ayn Rand didn't have much of an appetite, so she laid in bed playing on her phone. Just then, the girl with 2 pink tails walked over, showing a big smile. "Hi, my name is Xia Zhuai, the Xia Zhuai from My Fair Princess." She stretched out her fair and slender hand to greet Ayn Rand. "Hello, Lan Ayn Rand." Ayn Rand shook her head briefly and smiled. "You're different from them. That's why I'm here. I'm from the nursing department and so are the others. They're all the little overlords from our school. If they bully you, don't mind them, and don't agitate them. Their families are all rich, especially the one leading the group, Lian Xiao. She's so fierce." Xia Zhuai kept talking while Ayn Rand just smiled. "Aren't you going to eat?" Xia Zhuai was perplexed. "It's alright, I'm not hungry yet." Ayn Rand spoke politely. "Alright, I'll bring some back for you. If you're late, there won't be any left for you to eat." Xia Zhuai smiled and walked out, just in time to see the 3 of them returning together. Lian Xiao rolled her eyes at Xia Zhuai and entered the room. "Look, even a top student doesn't bring food." Lian Xiao spoke sourly. "Yeah, she's the best-looking straight-A student after all," the girl beside her continued. Ayn Rand didn't speak, making Lian Xiao a little angry. "Hey, Lan Ayn Rand, don't think you're so great just because you're pretty. There are many good-looking people in the world. You're not the only one. There are others who are prettier than you." "That's right, but you're not one of us." Ayn Rand was either silent or she was infuriating. "How dare you speak to Lian Xiao like that? Do you know who her family is?" The girl by the side wanted to say something but was stopped by Lan Ayn Rand. "Don't want to know. Move." Ayn Rand didn't find it peaceful anymore, as it was noisy in her ears. She stood up and walked out. "Damn it, she's too arrogant," the fat girl said. "She doesn't know the power of the Lian Xiao's family. Just wait, she's going to suffer." The other girl laughed. Lian Xiao didn't show much dissatisfaction. After all, she was a lady, so how could she bicker with a village girl? Outside, Xia Zhuai happened to bump into Ayn Rand, and she had returned from getting food. She handed her food with a grin. "Ayn Rand, don't bicker with her. She relies on the fact that her family is a business family. But they're actually just working for my dad. She's just arrogant because they're the second in charge." "Lan Ayn Rand, when are we going to find Sunhai suddenly walked over and looked at Shia's lion with a gaze. She made a good friend so quickly. I am Shia's Lai, the Shia's Lai from My Fair Princess. I'm in the same room as Anran. Are you Sunhai? I know you, the second best in the level. Shia's Lai smiled. Sunhai nodded, a little envious of Lin Anran's ability to make friends. Let's just wait until exams are over, Anran spoke calmly. What are you going to do? I heard the exam is split into 3 stages, each more difficult than the last. Shia's Lai smiled. It's alright, I'm confident. Sunhai was very confident. In this period of time, old man Shu Shan had been bringing her around to identify herbs, and she had improved a lot. After the meal, they returned to the room. Lian Shao still didn't have a good expression, but Anran didn't care. After one night, Anran entered the examination room, beginning her first test. When she saw the test paper for the first time, she was a little dumbfounded. If she didn't have years of experience, she definitely wouldn't know these things. She had seen the past Bronx City Medical Research Institute's questions, and today's test paper had the highest difficulty. It would be understandable if it was to select talent, but it was very clear that the difficulty of this paper test was deliberately increased. She couldn't help but suspect that this test paper was written for her. Fortunately, the average score for all 3 rounds of the testing was enough. She could easily score this test paper. She spent half an hour more than usual to complete the paper and submit it. Lian Shao was envious. She only answered those multiple choice questions. After the exam was over, the second paper would be on the day after next. So she had plenty of time to find Quan Shang. Sunhai took an hour to finish it, but she didn't answer all the questions. Chapter 177, He was discovered. Hey, Anran, do you think it's difficult? Anran was retrieving her herbs equipment from her suitcase, preparing to leave. Difficult. Sunhai was relieved. Since Anran found it difficult too, she didn't say anything. You're just going to pick some herbs. Do you need to bring these things? Are you going camping? Sunhai was a little surprised to see Anran packing ointments and flashlights. Didn't Master teach you to be careful when picking herbs? Anran asked softly. Sunhai shook her head. These past few days, Shu Shan had been teaching her how to differentiate and hadn't taken her to pick herbs. It seemed like he had more to teach her. Kong Shiang doesn't live in a bad place, but it's filled with shrubs. Usually there would be snakes, insects, rats, or ants. So I'll have to bring all the medicine. I might not be able to come back tonight. Anran packed it calmly. What? We're going camping in the wild? Sunhai had never lived outside and was a little scared. You don't have to go if you're scared. I'll be back. It was more convenient for Lan Anran to move alone. Sunhai hesitated for a moment before nodding. I'm going. I'm not scared. She straightened her clothes and followed Anran. Mojinro found a 5-star hotel by the examination hall, constantly monitoring Anran's movements. When he saw Anran leave with her backpack, he followed without a thought. Langshi County was different from Bronx City. There were mountains on both sides, but the mountains on Langshi County were shorter. There were small hills around it that were full of shrubs. Anran and Sunhai came to the mountains themselves and ran towards the bushes. Anran, will it still be useful after 3 to 4 days if we find it? Sunhai suddenly had a question. You don't have to worry about it. Look carefully at this photo. Anran wasn't a student anymore. She wore a hat, a long coat, and trousers, looking like a researcher from afar. Mojinro followed behind. A few days ago, it rained in Langshi County and the ground was moist. Mojinro stepped in mud and as a clean freak, he couldn't bear his dirty appearance. But since Anran was getting further and further away, he gritted his teeth and braced himself to follow her. After more than an hour of searching, Sunhai's waist was sore and painful. Hanran, when can we find Kwang Shiang? What's the hurry? Look for it slowly. If you're tired, just go back down the mountain. Snakes will crawl out of the mountain when the sun sets, especially during such a hot day. They love to come out and play. Hanran bluffed. Sunhai was most afraid of snakes and couldn't stay here, but she would have to find one Kwang Shiang before leaving. Suddenly, a bunch of bright red plants stood upright at the edge of the bush. Sunhai looked at the pictures and shouted in surprise, "Found it! Kwang Shiang!" Anran turned her head, and sure enough it was. She knelt down and carefully dug out the roots. She leaned in and smelled it. There was indeed a faint fragrance. "That's great!" Sunhai was a little happy. "It's getting late. If you're still following me, let's sleep in the tent tonight. We got the net around. Rats are common, but I heard that there are large pythons here." Anran said this to chase Sunhai away, as it was more convenient for her to do things alone. But aren't there any hotels nearby? Where should I stay?" Sunhai was frightened. "There is a scenic hotel halfway up the mountain. Why don't you stay there? I'll look for you tomorrow." Anran smiled and said, "Then I've seen such things often and have eaten snake meat before. When I was young, Master would often let me go up the mountain alone to pick herbs. I would often come back the next day, so there's no need to be afraid." When Sunhai heard Anran's words, she felt relieved and walked towards the hotel to sleep. Seeing the sky darken, Anran was satisfied to find one Kwang Shiang and decided to set up a tent on a flat piece of empty land. Mojinron didn't bring any equipment when he came down, and his body was riddled with wounds from the plants and mosquito bites. He looked at Anran's tent enviously. Anran felt warm and comfortable in the tent, but she felt that something was missing. Suddenly, the bush not far away moved, and she smiled, thinking that it was the food that was missing. She took out a dagger and prepared herself, thinking that she could have a delicious meal if she stabbed her prey. She had gotten closer when she heard a sneeze from the bushes. Was it a human? "Who is it? Show yourself." Anran's face was solemn and she was on guard. Seeing that he had no longer any reason to hide, Mojinrong crawled out of the bushes, looking disheveled. "Mojinrong?" Anran looked at him suspiciously. Mojinrong seemed to be frozen and he sneezed again. "Come over and warm yourself." Anran put down the knife in her hand and pulled Mojinrong to sit beside the fire. "Why are you following me?" Anran suddenly asked. "What are you doing here?" Mojinrong asked. Anran couldn't say that she was here to find medicine for him, so she smiled. "I'm here for the test. It's good to relax after the test. What are you doing here?" "Nothing. I just wanted to see what you were doing," Mojinrong said. "The great CEO of Moore Corporation actually followed me to such a place? Are you saying that you just wanted to see me? Do you really like me?" Anran suddenly leaned towards Mojinrong. Mojinrong was stunned. He seemed to be mesmerized by Anran's beauty and had the urge to kiss her. Fortunately, he restrained himself. "You're thinking too much. Are you hiding something from me?" Mojinrong looked directly at her, shocking Anran. She smiled after some thought. "Boss Mo, you must be hiding something from me since you came here all the way personally, right?" The two of them looked at each other, and in a split second they were suddenly attracted by the sound from the bush not far away. Chapter 178, Roasted Rabbit. "You brought someone with you?" Anran looked at Mojinrong warily. Mojinrong shook his head. "No, I'm here alone." Anran stood up and pulled out her dagger. Suddenly, a wild rabbit darted out of the bushes, frightening Mojinrong into retreating. Anran was quick to react. She threw the dagger, and the wild rabbit was caught in the throat, dead. She turned her head to look at Mojinrong's pitiful appearance and laughed out loud. "Why are you so timid? Are you afraid of rabbits in addition to dogs?" Anran sneered mercilessly. "How do you know I'm afraid of dogs?" Mojinrong suddenly asked. "Weren't you afraid of the Chihuahua last time?" Anran was startled that she had almost exposed herself. "How do I eat this rabbit?" Mojinrong was curious. Mojang was dumbfounded by the next series of actions. He felt as though he was living in the primordial forest. Lan Anran first found a long and thick wooden stick, then used her dagger to peel the skin. Next, she swiftly skinned a wild rabbit with a skilled technique. Did you kill rabbits often in the past? He used to live abroad and was never worked or experienced life in the countryside. He had always lived in a pampered environment and was a little curious to see Anran like this. No, in the past, when I was sent to the countryside by the lion family, I would catch frogs and rabbits to eat. After some time, I became familiar with them. It wasn't anything rare. Anran spoke casually. Mojang suddenly felt a trace of sympathy. Don't pity me. It's not a big deal. Anran continued to look down into the rabbit. She dug out the internal organs, rinsed them with some water she had brought, and placed them directly on a stake to roast over the fire. Why did you follow me here? Anran asked casually. When you left, Mojang replied flippantly. Why didn't you call for someone else instead came for yourself? And you said you didn't miss me, Anran teased. I'm not assured about other people. But what do you mean by a fake divorce? Mojang suddenly remembered. You'll have to ask your uncle. He threatened me with my brother and asked me to leave you. Otherwise, he'd ruin Yanran. I could only fake a divorce. You'll have to cooperate with me and put on a show for your uncle. Anran trolled the rabbit as she said this. Mojang is still misbehaving. It seems that the warning from the last meeting didn't wake him up. He only wants the Mo family's inheritance rights. He's dreaming. Mojang spoke coldly. How do you want me to cooperate? Anran smiled and leaned over to whisper in Mojang's ear for a while. Mojang frowned. Will that work? Don't worry. Mojang knows that your illness is cured. He won't suspect anything. Facing the fire, Anran smiled even more brightly. Okay. Mojang nodded and looked at the roasted rabbit on the stake, feeling a little hungry. There's a pity that there isn't any cumin or salt. Otherwise, it would definitely taste better. Anran spoke excitedly. Suddenly, Mojang felt like his neck had been bitten by a mosquito. It was painful and itchy. What's wrong? Anran watched as Mojang kept scratching his neck, causing it to flush. She wanted to walk over to have a look, but unexpectedly, she tripped on a branch and fell onto Mojang. The two of them hugged, and Anran accidentally kissed Mojang's face. They were both stunned. Mojang hugged Anran's waist, his heart beating rapidly. Are you all right? Mojang didn't forget to express his concern. Anran suddenly reacted and hurriedly got up from Mojang's stammering. I'm sorry, I didn't mean that. She touched her lips subconsciously and said. The scene was a little awkward, but Anran spoke first. The rabbit is ready to eat. Anran gave Mojang a rabbit leg, feeling embarrassed, and returned to the tent. The corner of her mouth lifted slightly. Mojang received the rabbit meat and a happy smile appeared on his face, something he hadn't noticed. However, he realized that every time he interacted with Anran, he wouldn't fall ill for a period of time. Late at night, Anran put out the fire, but there was only one tent. It seemed like she would have to spend the night in the same tent as Mojang. Don't worry, I won't do anything to you. Mojang spoke first, sleeping at the side of the tent. Anran slept on the other side, and the both of them fell asleep with their own thoughts. The sky had just lit up when the chirping of birds woke Mojang. He opened his eyes and wanted to get up, but found Anran lying in his arms, curled up like a well-behaved kitten. Mojang couldn't help but touch Anran's hair. Her perfect side profile was extremely attractive to Mojang. He couldn't control himself and wanted to kiss her forehead. Just then, Anran suddenly awakened. She opened her eyes slightly and saw Mojang's loving gaze, revealing a big smile. You're awake? Anran struggled to get up. The moment she walked out of her tent, she saw Sun Hai standing outside the tent, smiling at her. Chapter 179. Kintan. Anran, yesterday. Sunhai, how did you find me here? Anran was a little surprised. I didn't leave far yesterday. I saw your tent from afar, but... Sunhai had vaguely seen a man in the tent, and she looked at Anran in surprise. At this moment, Mo Junrong walked out of the tent and was tidying his clothes. This made Sunhai suspect that she had deliberately sent her away for a date with this man. No, it's not what you think. We didn't do anything. We were just in the same tent yesterday. So you deliberately sent me away yesterday? Was it exciting? Sunhai asked deliberately, a wicked smile appearing on her face. We... Pack up and leave. Mo Junrong suddenly interrupted. Anran let out an "oh" and didn't say anything else. But 2 patches of red appeared on her face. Before leaving, Anran found many herbs to bring back to Shushan. Mo Junrong was interested in the King Xiang behind Anran. He didn't know why Anran wanted it. He only heard that it was very valuable. It was already afternoon when Anran and Sunhai returned to the hotel. Armis didn't come back last night and only came back after the results were announced. She is so punctual. Lian Chao spoke in a strange tone. Anran walked to her suitcase and saw that it seemed to be touched. She opened the suitcase indifferently, and the contents were indeed in a mess. You touched my luggage? Anran looked at them coldly. What's wrong with looking? There isn't anything valuable inside. What's there to hide? Lian Chao spoke disdainfully. What are you carrying? The girl walked over and reached out to pull Anran's backpack. Although Anran didn't know any martial arts, she knew some basic self-defense skills. She turned her hand, grabbed the girl's arm, and twisted it and spoke coldly. Didn't your parents teach you manners? You country bumpkin, let me go. You're hurting me. The girl was in so much pain she was about to cry. Anran, let her go. Aren't you just a countryside girl? Who are you to compare to us? There isn't anything valuable inside. It's just a bunch of tattered clothes. What's there to mind? Lian Chao was unconvinced. I have never thought of competing with you. You're not worthy. Anran twisted her arm again. Anran, stop fighting. You'll be disqualified if you fight during the test. Xie Zhuai spoke. Anran released her arm and warned them, don't touch my things. You're not worthy. What's so great about you? Let's go. Lian Chao's face was pale with anger as she pulled the 2 of them away. Anran, I'm sorry. I wasn't around yesterday, or I would have stopped them. Xie Zhuai apologized. It's alright. The results are going to be announced soon. Anran packed their things. Yeah, it's about to start. The test paper this time is a little difficult. I don't think my results are good. Xie Zhuai was a little upset. Anran packed their things silently and placed them in her suitcase. Let's go and see the results. The results were announced at the entrance of the examination room, and there were many people around. It has indeed dropped. Xie Zhuai looked at her results sadly. The first place is Anran? She really isn't simple. She could have gotten such a high score on a difficult paper. The crowd exclaimed. The second person is the best. He's 1 point behind Lian Anran, the other girl spoke. Do you know who he is? He is called the Examination God. I heard that he was transferred from another school. He wasn't part of the previous competition. He's a dark horse. Xie Zhuai was a little curious as she looked at Anran. Anran, aren't you curious about the second place? I'm not interested. Anran only needed to know that she was first. She wasn't interested in others. Xie Zhuai was very interested, and she leaned forward to take a look at the name on the list. Qin Taiyan. At that moment, Lian Chao, who saw the rankings, was furious. Ugh, this brat is first again. How did she do such a difficult paper? Lian Chao, don't be sad. You'll definitely beat her next time. The girl comforted her. Do you think that's possible? Lian Chao looked at the girl sharply, which made her hair stand on end. She had wanted to flatter her, but had expected to fail. Look, look, the Almighty is here. There was a stir in the crowd. Qin Tian casually walked over, causing a group of girls to scream. However, when he walked to the front of the list, his expression dimmed when he looked at it. He's so handsome. Xia's Lai was infatuated. Anran looked up. Qin Tian has a good appearance. He has a defined face, good features, and a small mole on his nose. And that was the finishing touch, but it was still inferior to her younger brother, Yanran. She was about to turn around when Qin Tian called out after her. Chapter 180, More Difficult Question. So you're Lan Anran? His deep voice was slightly magnetic and reached Anran's ears. Yes, what's the matter? Anran turned and asked softly. Qin Tian was slightly taken aback. Anran was the prettiest looking girl he had ever seen. I will definitely surpass you next time. Qin Tian's words were powerful, like a challenge. Oh. Anran's nonchalant reply surprised Qin Tian and further convinced him that he hadn't gotten second place before coming to Wrong City University. What's there to be proud of? So what if she's pretty? So what if she's first place? Lian Chao was extremely jealous. Ever since Qin Tian transferred to Wrong City University, she had been paying close attention to him, had even sent him love letters. But now he didn't even look at her, and his soul was stolen by Lan Anran. How hateful. Anran returned to the hotel room calmly, but Mo Jinrong couldn't stay calm anymore. He could only see the way Qin Tian looked at her. He took out his phone and messaged Mosan. Investigate the background of Qin Tian from Wrong City University. Young master, why are you investigating him? You should be concerned about the progress of the experiment. After you left, Mo Changwen came over to find out more information. He has been asking questions these past few days, Mo-san replied. How was the experiment? Mo Jinrong suddenly remembered he had a mission. Everything is going smoothly, but we seem to lack a catalyst. What medicine? Quan Cheyenne. I don't have any in Wrong City at the moment, Mo-san replied swiftly. Mo Jinrong suddenly remembered seeing a bunch of Quan Cheyenne in Anran's room this morning. He wondered if she would lend it to him. Got it, I'll think of a way. Investigate Qin Tian first. Mo Jinrong seemed anxious. Investigating this man was very important to him. Young master, is this Miss Lance's admirer? Mo-san asked with confusion. How did you know? Mo Jinrong found it strange. Was it obvious? Young master, have you fallen for Miss Lan? Mo-san asked. Aren't you busy? Mo Jinrong didn't say anything. In fact, he wasn't sure why, but he was a little angry when he saw another man beside Anran. Young master, I'll get this done right away. Mo-san became solemn. Back in her room, Anran wasn't happy about getting first place. Instead, she was worried about the upcoming exams. After taking the first paper, she knew the questions of the second paper would be even more difficult. It seemed that someone was deliberately making things difficult for her, not wanting her to enter the Wrong City Medical Research Institute. However, this will not stop her from entering the institute. Anran, did you see the look of Qin Tian gave you? It was filled with admiration and respect. She is why teased. No, Anran replied calmly. All right, but you really are something. I heard of you before, but I didn't think you were such a top student. She is why smiled and said. At this moment, Sunhai walked in, looking anguished. Anran, why are you first again? I can't believe my ranking was 20 plus. The accent might not be able to beat you. Anran smiled and said, That's true, even that arrogant girl might not be able to beat me. The Qin Tian and the man from this morning, they... Sunhai hesitated and said, No. Anran hurriedly spoke. Xia's Lai seemed to have noticed something but didn't expose it. In the blink of an eye, it was time for the exam again. Ayn Rand entered the examination room early and frowned slightly when she received the test paper. The questions were obviously not for her. She looked at the reactions of the students around her, who seemed to be relaxed. She was a little suspicious and hence spoke out loudly. "Teacher, did you send the wrong test paper?" The feliciter was a skinny woman with glasses. She walked to Ayn Rand and looked at the test paper. "This is the correct one, do it." Lian Chao sneered. "She doesn't know how to do it, and she said she got the test paper wrong? What a joke." Ayn Rand didn't say anything. The paper in front of her was deeply involved in the field of research. She could easily write a research paper. Since someone wanted to do this for her, she would accept the challenge. She had read a lot of literature in the past, and fortunately she knew how to write it. When the others finished and handed in their papers, Ayn Rand still had a few hundred words left. At the end of the blow, she finally finished and handed in her papers. She was the last to leave the examination room. The feliciter looked at Ayn Rand with a secretive expression. She had beautiful handwriting and a tidy exam paper. There wasn't a single word wrong in the entire essay, and there was a hint of surprise in her eyes. Outside, Lian Chao felt that Ayn Rand was doomed. She felt that the test was too simple. Ayn Rand had written it for 2 hours and still hadn't finished it. Let's see how she could still put on a front. Some people puff themselves at their own cost and pretend to know things they don't. There will be a good show when the results are out. She rolled her eyes at Ayn Rand, who had just left the examination room and swaggered off. "Ayn Rand, was the exam difficult? Why did it take you so long?" Sondheim was curious. There wasn't anything difficult, just multiple choice questions. "Why did she take so long?"